Welcome to this lecture on WordPress hosting options. So in the discussions this week on Udemy, I was given a question about where best to host your WordPress site. So I thought I'd put this lecture together to cover that topic. So we're going to talk about why hosting is important, both for your customers, but also for SEO. And then I'm going to give you some hosting recommendations. Does who I host with matter? I hear that occasionally because people often think, well, it's just the back end. I'm really focused on my content. I'm focused on my customers. So does it really matter who I host with? Well, yeah, it does matter. Your website's an asset. If it goes down or it's slow, you're going to lose traffic. Google and your visitors like fast websites. There's more research, more evidence, more surveys than you can shake a stick at that will tell you that faster sites convert better. They sell more, they generate more opt-ins, they get more visitor engagement. So having a site that's up, that's fast and reliable is super important, and it does affect your SEO. Site speed is one of those ranking signals that Google do look at. It's a minor signal, but it's still a signal if you think about it from a perspective of what's the best experience that a customer can have. If two sites are equal, a slow site or a fast site, well, obviously the fast site's better, and that's why Google sort of favors it. But more importantly, having a really good web host with good support is actually less work and less trouble for you. So here's what you really need to look for. Start with a web host that has a really good reputation in the market. Now, if you go on Facebook or anywhere else, forums online, you can find out who the top web hosting companies are and which ones are, not as good. Don't always go with the biggest or the cheapest, because sometimes there are some really super large hosts out there who just frankly aren't very good. They offer the cheapest service, or they do the most advertising, or in some cases they have the best affiliate program, so they get driven a lot of traffic. So focus on somebody who has a really good reputation. Good quality customer support is absolutely vital. If you have a problem with your site, if something you've done isn't working the way it needs to work, or there's a technical problem, having somebody that you can jump on a live chat or get very fast email responses to, and having support that are going to be able to go in and resolve your problems quickly, that's going to save you time, effort, and eventually even create money for you. And if your host has some WordPress skills, or they at least understand WordPress, that's a positive thing if we're focusing on WordPress sites. So let's talk about who's who in the zoo when it comes to web hosting. So I'm going to start with my recommendations. That's kind of what I was asked to cover, and I've basically been dealing with dozens and dozens of hosts personally over the last 10 years or so. And some of that comes from my own stuff, but also clients and people that we do work with in our business. So I have a fairly broad experience, and I have a good technical background, so I kind of know what I'm seeing from the hosts. My two top priorities personally are support staff capability. When I get on a live chat or send an email and I know what's wrong, if I have the ability to talk to somebody in real time and they can actually solve the problem, that's hugely beneficial to me. What I really dislike is when you have to send in a ticket or you get on live chat and the person that you're talking to has no ability to fix your problem and then has to escalate. And the moment you get into some of those escalation loops in hosting companies, you really don't have control anymore. And maybe the people are great in tier 2 and tier 3 of their support. But if the tier 1 staff, the level 1 staff aren't, really good, then you're going to struggle to get things fixed in a timely fashion. And then the other thing I really focus attention on is service availability. So how much uptime do they have? How reliable are they? And then speed and performance. So, do their servers respond in a quick, timely fashion? And one thing you'll notice is I didn't say I'm looking for the cheapest web hosting. I do focus on affordability. I think that's important. You can spend an awful lot of money if you want to in web hosting. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the best service, but you can spend a lot of money with some really good hosts. It's just not a factor that I weigh into my decision making personally. I just look for something that works for me and something that delivers those two priorities I'm looking for. So let's talk about some hosts. So Bluehost is one of the larger shared hosting platforms. They're a good entry-level web host. So if you're looking for something affordable with reasonably good support, then Bluehost isn't too bad. In particular, their shared plan, which starts at about $4 a month, it scales up the more options and things you take. Shared hosting, very quickly, is where your website sits on a server with potentially hundreds of other people's sites, and the hosting company tries to balance the load across their shared hosting environment. So you don't really have your own server, you have your own website on a shared server. So if you're starting out and you don't have, tons of traffic, and we're talking about, maybe less than 5 or 10,000 visitors a month, if you're kind of below those levels, then, a reasonably affordable shared plan probably will work for you. Bluehost have what's called their WordPress optimized plan, and it'll run you in about $25 a month. There are some added options and things that they'll try and upsell you on. And the first month is, $12.50. So don't get caught into thinking that's the ongoing price. That's only the first month. But their WordPress optimized plan is available. I don't have experience with that, and I don't generally use Bluehost for anything other than recommending it as an entry level. So if you're looking for specialist WordPress optimized or WordPress capable hosts, then I'm not entirely sure that Bluehost is the best option. But if you have good experience with them, then it might be worth looking at because they do offer it. Liquid Web or Storm on Demand. Storm on Demand was a company that Liquid Web bought a couple of years ago. I use this myself, so most of my sites are run on a Storm on Demand virtual private server. So a VPS is basically where you have a partition of a server that's hived off to you, and you can run multiple sites on there. It's a great way to run 10, 15 sites in an affordable fashion where you have some level of control, but you do need to be a little bit more hands-on, and you need to kind of understand a little bit about some of the technology that runs this stuff. Now, not a lot. With Storm on Demand, the thing that's makes me recommend these guys to everybody I know is that their technical support is unbelievable. Their first time fix when you're on live chat is upwards of 90%. I've been using these guys for years, and I very, very rarely ever have to have anything escalated. Their level 1 support who man live chat are incredibly capable, and more importantly, they have the ability to jump on your server and actually do things, which oftentimes level 1 support staff don't have. They don't have that kind of admin access. They also see a lot of different problems. So if you have an issue, they probably have seen it once or twice before, and they're quick to resolve it. Their WordPress skills are surprisingly good too, which surprised me when I started using them a couple years ago. If you have a strange problem with a plugin or some kind of idiosyncratic WordPress problem, these guys generally are pretty capable and can get on it and fix it quite quickly. Sort of an entry-level VPS will cost you about $80 a month. You can get more when you add more sites and more dedicated IP addresses, or you need more scale. It can get a little bit higher, but you're probably looking at $80 to $100 a month. WP Engine is a specialist WordPress hosting business, and that's all they do. So they have their own infrastructure that they use, and all they do is host WordPress. And of course, as a result, their WordPress support is exceptional by all accounts. Now, I've not used these guys, but I do have both clients and people whose opinion that I trust from a technical level who say that the quality of support they get from these guys is top shelf. Their environment is very, very locked down. So because they're so focused on providing a fast and efficient and strong WordPress environment, there are lots of plugins and other things that they just don't let you install on your WordPress site. So you have to bear that in mind. But these guys basically take control of some of the back end of your WordPress site. Now, they don't do management and stuff for you, but they will understand the problems you're having because this is what they do. One of the things to bear in mind with WP Engine that I've noticed is that their optional extras can get really expensive. So if you're in the entry level plan, which starts at about $29 a month for a single site, the CDN and some of the other options can get really expensive, and you very quickly find yourself up to $60+ a month for a single site, which isn't affordable. But again, it comes back to the quality of service you're looking for. Synthesis comes from the people who do Studio Press and Copy Blogger, if you're familiar with them, and they've built their own hosting environment dedicated to WordPress, and it is lightning fast. All of the technology they use is really cutting edge. It's not the standard stuff that your average web host will use. It's designed for performance and scalability. So Synthesis is at the top end of performance in every review you look at. And of course, their tech support is exceptional because that environment is difficult for them to maintain. But the beauty is they abstract all that from you, so you get really good performance without having to worry about how it all runs. And their WordPress support is very good. The Synthesis platform has a number of really good really good extras that are thrown in. So things like security for managing security around some of your WordPress installations is all there. It integrates with W3TC for caching. It's got a lot of really good extras that just come with the price. And for one site, you're looking at about $49 a month. And surprisingly, it's very, very functional. There's one or two options that you don't have. But if you're doing up to about 10,000 visitors a month, you can get away with that. That's a pretty good price. Now, the guys at Copy Blogger who run their Synthesis program have put together this thing called New Rainmaker, and it's a little bit outside the box. So I was kind of debating whether or not I'd throw it in, but I thought I'll put it out there because of the audience on Udemy in particular, being content creators who are looking at providing learning environments and learning management systems for people for their students. So that's kind of what New Rainmaker is really focused on. It runs on Synthesis, so you get all the benefits of it being super fast. It's not traditional WordPress. They've built their own user interface and everything, but it is fully built atop WordPress. So you get all the benefit of being on WordPress. You can export your site if you ever choose to leave, and you can get kind of like a WordPress export that you can install somewhere else. But what you get is you get a completely abstracted view that lets you focus on things, but it also you get things like learning management systems, so you can have your own courses and structure around that. They have a number of other built-in tools that are pretty impressive. I've done some testing on this over the last couple months, and if you were a content creator who just wanted one single site and you wanted it to be fast and you didn't want to worry about support and you didn't want to worry about setting up WordPress or any of that stuff, then for $95 a month, this is pretty good. It's not as configurable as your traditional WordPress. There's some limitations around your themes and there's no concept of plugins, so to speak. So you're kind of limited in that regard. But if you just want to produce a blog with a membership that lets you have courses in there, then this might be an option for you. So to summarize, I think it's important to just remind you that you really want to stick to high quality web hosting. You could probably find cheaper. You can probably find more high profile web hosts than the ones that I've talked about. But realistically, you have to think about what you're looking for from your web hosting company. You want somebody who's going to give you good service and good support so that you don't have to, fool around with too much technology if that's not your strength. And then if you want more WordPress help, then that's where some of the specialist web hosting providers that just do WordPress come into play. And so I've kind of tried to give you a mix, but you really need to think about what you want and then tailor your hosting to suit that. And just remember, you can always move hosts. You're not marrying these people for life. If it doesn't work out in a few months, it's not impossible to pick up and move web hosts. So I've done it a couple times over the years. It's not the easiest thing in the world, and it obviously depends on how many sites you have. But if you're just managing one or two sites, then realistically, moving hosts is more of a nuisance than anything else. So if you're not happy with what you're getting, then you can always pick up and move.